Welcome to In the Ven Zone with Christine McKay, where we get candid about what it takes to negotiate effectively. You'll learn from the challenges and successes of entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. We help you change the nature of your negotiations and get more from every deal you do.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. It is so great to have you join us again on In the Ven Zone, where we work to show you as small business owners different ways of negotiating so that you have more effective, even more successful negotiation every time you're at the table. And today I am really excited to have Mr. Shay Brown on with us today. Shay is a sales guru, and I am really excited because we haven't had somebody from sales on the show yet. And a lot of times when I talk about negotiation, people who have long histories in sales say to me, well, it's just sales. I'm like, no, negotiation is part of sales and it's more than that. But I wanted to have Shay on because he's been doing sales training for many, many years. And Shay, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Thank you very much. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us, I have your bio, which will be in the show notes and all that good stuff. But like you, I hate reading bios. So I'm just going to let you dive in and tell us who you are.
Well, first, let me just say thank you so much, Christine, for having me here. First, thank all the viewers and all the listeners for tuning in. You know, my promise to you is that this will be a good use of your time, and you'll walk away with one idea that you can use, either build your sales team or use sales to generate revenue to execute the resources you need to execute the vision you have for the people you were called to serve. That's number one. Number two, Christine, I just want to acknowledge you for having this particular platform to allow folks not only to listen, but to share their expertise so we all can make our communities better and make this country a much better place and ultimately the world a better place. So thank you so much. I know the question was like, who is Shay Brown? And reality is, I don't know, right? You would think I now have my AARP card, right? So you would think with 52 years on this planet, I know who I am, but I do know this much. I know I'm a son because I have mother dear who I love, who's 73 years old. She's still here. My dad's no longer with us. He passed away May 2nd, 2017. So I know I'm a son. I know I'm a brother, right? Because I have one brother and I have two sisters. So I know I'm that. But I also happen to be a dad, by the way. And I have two adult kids. I guess you never stop being a dad, right? No matter how old they get, you're always a dad. And oh, by the way, I'm working hard to be the number one husband in the world, by the way. No offense to all my friends and colleagues, but I'm on my third marriage, okay? Nothing personal. I'm on my third marriage. I'm loving life the last 18 months. So I'm trying to make every day like the first day when I was chasing her. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all know what I'm saying, right? Because she was like, you're not really my type. But I'm like Novocaine. I told her, give me time and I work. So anyway, so I'm really, really happy. So I'm still trying to figure out who I am. But I will close with this and say that right now in this conversation, I'm a business owner. Yep. Entrepreneur, 15 years, all the time, full time. And what we do as Sales Team Guru, that's the quote unquote, the company name, Sales Team Guru. At the end of the day, we help entrepreneurs generate revenue using a sales team. And I always say I have the toughest job in the world because I got the toughest prospects in the world because the prospects, the entrepreneurs, the speakers, the authors, the coaches, the trainers, the service-based businesses, the brick and mortar businesses, I've got to work with these prospects and try to help them understand they need sales to stay in business. I know it's crazy. I know it's an oxymoron. I know. But you won't believe how many folks like, I just want to do all the sales myself. I want to be the number one salesperson and the number one marketing person and the number one negotiator and the number one admin and the number one project manager and the number one tech. I want to be number one everything, Shane. I'm like, you can't be great at everything. You can be good at a lot of things. You can be wonderful at a lot of things, but it's hard to be great at everything. So I have a hard time convincing them, let it go, let it go. But anyway, so that's who I am. So I am really good at helping people build sales teams to make money. So I'm excited to be here, Christine. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I'm not just that person you see on paper or whatever you're reading right now. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. And I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. I have 3 adult children, so I've had my AARP card for a very long time. So
I'm loving it though. I'm proud to have him. I tell my son, the good news is I got here. He says, Dad, you got to stop talking about the 1900s. That's like so long ago. I'm like, no, it wasn't that long ago, son. 1900s was not that long ago. I was in high school. It wasn't that long ago. I was in college. It wasn't that long ago. No, Dad, stop saying 1900s. Just say 2021 or 2000. Don't say 19 anything, Dad. Okay. Like I'm trying to be cool at the same time. It's not working.
Yeah, I think cool I went out with cool a while ago. So, so thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And one of the things that I really am excited about, and one of the things that I talk about when I talk about negotiation, is how we show up for our negotiation. And the negotiation that we have in between our ears is the hardest part of any negotiation. And as for small business owners and for your clients, especially if they're negotiating with a larger organization, and I talk a little bit about some of the things that you have seen be very effective for some of your clients as they kind of move up into the market and start figuring out how to play in kind of the bigger ponds.
Sure. And when we talk about bigger ponds means different things, different folks, right? You're right. For some folks, bigger ponds is a 2-year, 3-year, multi-year contract. Right. For others that are a speaker or an author or a coach or a trainer or a network marketer, it's selling that first high ticket program that's $25,000, right? Or for others, it's just enter into a collaboration, a power relationship. Right. Where they're working hand in hand with someone. Negotiation means a whole lot of things. So I agree with you 100%. In sales and negotiation, we really go together like peanut butter and jelly. I mean, we really do. So let me debunk 2 myths if I can, and then I'll answer your question, because the first myth is some people might say, well, I don't need negotiation and I don't need sales because I don't see myself in sales. And I want you to know this. I want you just to hear from this view of the world that if you think about it, everyone is always selling and negotiating something, right? If you are a minister, you're selling faith every single week, or you're negotiating how you sell faith every single week, right? If you are a school teacher, you're selling education every single day, or you're negotiating how you're selling education in the process. That's a topic for another time, I understand. Or if you're a parent, we just talked about being parents. You said you have 3 adults. I have 2 adults. I don't know if they ever become adults. I guess they're adults on paper, but let me tell you, they're more expensive the older they get. McDonald's seems really freaking cool now, okay? Wish I could take it to McDonald's and it was over. It's not like that. They want a credit card with money on it. But if you're a parent, you're negotiating values. You're selling values every single day. So no matter who you are, the biggest negotiation you have every single day, the biggest sale you make every single day, that biggest negotiation is to yourself. No, seriously, you negotiate with yourself. There are 1,440 minutes in every day. I know I'm a little sidetracked, but there are 1,440 minutes in every day, and you're negotiating what you're going to do with every single one of those minutes.
Absolutely.
With every single one of those minutes. So when she talks about what it means from a corporate perspective, let me frame the conversation. Say, yeah, the same techniques that are needed that you negotiate with yourself, listening to yourself, understanding what your priorities are, understanding what your philosophy is, understanding what your methodology is the same type of skills I believe you need when you're negotiating a big deal, because that same person that you are with yourself is how you're reflecting on the outside. Now, I get it. I get there. Sometimes there's truth and truisms that we'll often do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. So when you go negotiate a big deal, you're someone different. You're this other character comes out, that pseudo part. If you're Beyonce, she has her own pseudo part. You have that own character. I get that. But I think there's 3 skills that are very, very important. Let me answer your question now. And I wanted to give you a little bit of the backstory so we understand that we're all negotiating every day. You're negotiating right now. Do you continue to watch this, or do you turn this off? Right? You're negotiating right now. Do I take notes? Do I give it more of my time? It's negotiation. So 3 skills I believe you need. The first skill I think that's very, very important is helping the other person get what they want. Zig Ziglar, who's no longer with us, had a big, great saying. It said, you can help everybody in life. You can have everything you want in life. You help everybody else get what they want out of life. Well, I'm part of the Puff Daddy generation, okay? We have the remix version, all of us, AAP carrying cards. So the remix version is make sure you know what they want and you help them get what they want. So if you don't even know what they want and you're not even going to help them, it's hard to start the negotiations. Okay. So I think number one is I got to know exactly what it is they want and how I can help them get what they want. Instead of starting with what do I want. I think that's number one. I think number 2, and I know they're going to say communication is the thing and listening is the thing, but I think you've got to be very, very cognizant of the words you're going to use in the conversation. I have this thing around neurolinguistic sales, which is a study of language patterns and how it impacts the sales process. Now, why do I say the words you're going to use? Because they've got to interpret it, what you're saying, right? You got to listen. That's like da-rah. But how you communicate, what you say, when you say it, how you say it, your tonality, to me, that's important. Now, let me jot this down in your notes. This might be a golden nugget for you. So many golden nuggets. I know there's so many golden nuggets, but put this down in your notes. This is so important. Your words will make you rich. Let me say it again. You might not have heard that. Your words will make you rich. Like, true. I'm glad you're writing that down or typing it right now, because when she said, Shay, when you go after bigger deals, what does it take? Do I have to put on a different suit? Do I have to have a better camera? Do I have to have, if we're doing it virtually, like through the power of those fiber optic lines, do I need a cool mic? No. Your words will make you rich. What you say, when you say it, and how you say it, because the meaning of the words will be interpreted by the other person. And to me, that's the key. I mean, for any business owner, that's the key to making sure the negotiation goes the way you want to go and they want to go. I get the win-win thing, but sometimes you're putting it in writing, and that's important. A number of my clients now are sending videos, like seriously, like we did this whole thing. That's a whole book on it, but the whole thing where they just record a video on their phone and they're sending video messages. Why? Because someone's more likely to watch a 3 to 5 minute video message than they are to open your email. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so what you say, not how you look, but what you say goes a long way. They hear you and they see your face and your reaction. They see you talking. They're like, okay, is what you're saying communicating with your body language? Now, that's why you need someone like Venn Negotiations, because there's much more that I can get into right now. They actually get into body language and what you say and how you say it and how you communicate. So the 2 skills I'm giving you so far is, the number 1 skill is know what they want. But more importantly, here's the second part, write it down. How can I help them get it?
That's actually
how can I help them get it?
That's huge. So, so one of the things that I talk a lot about is, it's very easy for us when we're negotiating to know what it is that we want. And well, we think it is. So generally what most people do is they think at a very high level about what they want. And they don't think about what are all the possibilities, because those possibilities matter to your counterpart, right? So what are all the possibilities? What are all the available options of whatever it is that you might be negotiating? And then how important are those different options to you? And then how do they relate to your counterpart? Are they doable for your counterpart? Are the things that your counterpart wants different from what you want in the negotiation? Those things drive your trade-offs. And when you're negotiating, you want to be giving away the things that are unimportant to you, but that are important to your counterpart. You want to understand what those things are, because that's where the negotiation occurs and where there's success. And people who've listened to me before, I'm not a huge fan of win-win. I was very fortunate. I got to go to Harvard University. I was taught by the professors who wrote Getting to Yes and Getting Past No and all that. But usually at the table, somebody wins a little bit more than somebody else. But if you believe in the customer for a lifetime, a concept of the customer for a lifetime, then negotiation, as many of you already know, for me, is nothing more than a conversation about a relationship. And there is no win in relationship. And so over time, we need to go back and forth in those relationships to make sure that we're renegotiating as we move forward. Otherwise, we lose the opportunity to have a longer term valuable relationship and create value over time. Because I agree 100% with what you're saying, Shay. We often, so many people when they're negotiating, do not spend enough time understanding what their counterpart needs in order to be successful, and then figuring out, how do I get that to them? Because if you can make your counterpart successful, you're going to be successful at the same time.
Absolutely. And that leads to the point of a client that I was working with that didn't see themselves in sales or see themselves negotiating. And to your part of what you said, one of our core philosophies, and I believe in principles, by the way, I believe you stand on your principles, they help hold your philosophies together. But one of the principles is this one concept called selling equals service. Put that in your notes if you're taking notes out there. Selling equals service. Negotiation also can equal service as well. So I gave you the first one was know what they want, how you're going to help them. I gave you the second one and said, I got to be able to communicate what I'm saying to them. But the third one and the underpinning line is selling equals service. So there I am working with someone and she's a financial planner and she's negotiating deals and trying to help people move money around and so forth. And she hated sales or hated even negotiating because sometimes they didn't want to move the whole 401k. They didn't want to move all the mutual funds. So in financial planning, the 30-second versions, sometimes someone would give you what we call reduce the risk. That means they'll go in and give you a little bit of something over here and see how that works out while they keep money over here. And she hated that. That's negotiating because she's only gonna get so much, okay? But she's trying to get the whole ball of wax. So I said, hey, look, you don't hate sales. She said, I hate selling. I got to convince them. No, selling is not about convincing anyone to do anything. Selling equals service. Jot this, selling equals service, selling equals service, selling equals service. I gave her this one concept and it changed the trajectory of her business. I said, selling really is about three things. And you can wrap in negotiation as part of this. Selling, number one, Jot this, because this really helped her. And I want to help you create a breakthrough because you're like, well, I don't even want to do selling. Oh my gosh, it's always got to give, take. It's too much. No. Selling equals service. Selling is about three things. Number one, selling is about education. So I said, can you educate the folks you're working with that you just said, and that's so do you, Kristen, that there's other options that are available. That there's a problem on the planet and there's some other options. She says, well, I can let them know that, Shay, I'm pretty good. Great. Number two, so selling is about education. Three things. Selling, number two, is about leading. Can you at least say, if you take a step, here are the options that I can provide you with right away, and this will help you. Oh, I can do that, Shay. Good. And then third, selling is about moving people to action. Ask them, will you do it? So in your negotiation, it's like, well, let's educate that we recognize there's a problem. Let's talk about, as you just said, the options. Selling is about leading. Here's all the options. And then saying, how would you like to take a step to option one or option two, or option three? And maybe that's going to help you create a breakthrough that you don't go to the table as you said, I want to win. I'm going to get them to a yes. You go to the table saying, how can I serve?
Yeah,
how can I serve?
I love that.
Yeah. So that created a breakthrough for her. And for me, even when I'm working with companies, because oftentimes I'm not the main sales team, right? They've got Sandler over here and they've got Dale Carnegie here, and they got all these other bigger programs. And so in the negotiation, I'm focusing on how can I outserve other folks? How can I get in the lane? How can I get my foot in the door? Initially on bigger deals, because they already got contracts. They got folks coming in.
Right.
But maybe when you're negotiating, what I determined was they might be like my son. Let me give you a quick story. My son, when he was high school. He came home one day, he was 16 years old and said, Dad, guess what? I said, what? He said, the football coach said, if I get good grades and score well on the SATs, I can go whatever college I want to. I said, well, son, that sounds pretty cool. I've been saying that, I don't know, for 15 years now. It's like, nah, Dad, you don't get it. Like, he's the football coach. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so maybe in your negotiation, that's it. They've heard all the noise. And now you've got to come in and you've got to be the person that they say, you know what? This guy gets it. Or this woman gets it. And that's so important. That's why you want to go in to serve. And so whenever I'm serving and giving something of value or giving them something early on, I would tell people, put your best stuff up front in negotiations. Tell them, I mean, that might not be all cases, but if you're open and honest, here's the best I can do. And let's work from there. Why is that? Well, my other philosophy is the 70-30 rule. Now you heard the 80-20 rule, right? Everybody heard the 80-20 rule. 20% of your activities produce 80% of your results. But I told you, I got my AARP card. I'm part of the Puff Daddy generations. We got remix versions on everything. It's what we do, baby. So I said, well, what if we had a 70-30 rule? What if my rule is I'm giving 70% more than the other person had to put in 30%? And so when I come to the table, I'm coming to outserve my competition. I'm coming to outserve everyone else. And as long as I'm at this 70-30 split, then I'm always going to give more. Even if I fail and I'm at 60-40, I'm giving way more than they even anticipated because I'm in it. And you said lifetime customer value. We always say we're in it for the long money, not the short money.
That's really interesting because one of the things so there's a bunch of research that was done by a professor out of Cornell, and she does research on negotiation styles. And so we've adapted some of the styles to kind of come up with our own terminology around it. But when you look at the different styles, like 65% of negotiators tend to be more value taking negotiators. 65%. That's a huge number, heavily influenced by American culture and Western culture. And it's that style is kind of becoming more pervasive throughout the rest of the world. And I've been blessed to have done a lot of international negotiations. When you come across in sales, because I especially find it with women in particular who hate this concept of selling, they hate negotiating, they find it combative, they just feel it, they get intimidated by it. And it's always interesting because when I look at my customer base, 100% of my customers are minority women-owned businesses, every one of them. And it's how do we like move beyond that? When do you counsel or advise your clients to walk away from a deal? Because the ultimate leverage is walking away. To say no. No is a full stop sentence all by its little self. So how do you advise people to think about using no and standing in their power to do that?
Sure. When you're going after the larger deals, there are two things that I will address, and then let me answer the question from two views of the world. Right. The first view of the world is those folks who hate selling. And I think you mentioned that most of your clients are women, and probably 70% of our audience and those folks we work with are in our programs are women, which is not uncommon because in personal professional development, 70% are women, right? They're really participating in personal professional development for obvious reasons. But one of the things I share with them is they didn't really hate sales. What I found out in my 15 years is they hated sounding like someone else when they were going through the process. They hated using a script. I always say scripts are for actors. They hated trying to sound like their consulting firm and told them to say these words a certain way. They hated trying to sound like their coach or sound like a woman or sound like a man. And they wanted to know their own unique selling style. And as a result of that, we created something just like you did. We took personalities. We created something called signature selling style. And we said, okay, you've heard of Myers-Briggs. You've heard of all these other tests, personality tests. What if we had our own test, our own questionnaire, way to bring people together, say, no. This are the 7 unique signature selling styles. And you fit one of these signature selling styles, and each signature selling style has its own unique voice. It has its own way of closing. It has its own way of handling the situation. So now you can sound like yourself. You can speak like yourself, and you can be yourself. So you can be natural, you can be transparent, you can be authentic. And at the end of the day, you feel good whether you get the deal or walk away. Because if you're feeling bad when you're leaving the deal, then you're making the deal about you. And the deal is not about you. It is not about you. You're like, well, I feel bad. You can't feel anyway. Thoughts are things, and things can be changed. So this is not a mindset conversation. Mindset is what you tell yourself every freaking day. You can look in the mirror till you're blue in the face, say, I'm a great negotiator. Nothing happens. It's the psychology, which is really your actions. And so what we try to teach people, and I'm getting to your question, is, understand at least one, your signature selling style. Because you might be the professor signature selling style and you're negotiating and you like to teach them something. And then you call a call to action. You could be the intuitive selling style where you like to kind of use your gut intuition. Some of you sound like me. I'm the heart center selling style. There has to be emotions have to be connected in there some way, somehow. And you talked about that kind of earlier. And then some folks are kind of like, they got the Tony Robbins style, I would say, or the Eric Thomas style. And that's the rock star. It's kind of like charisma. They like you, they love you, because the likability factor. People do business, people they like. No, that's the old way. Let me give you the Shea Brown remix version. People buy benefits. They buy the benefits. Now they gotta like you. I get it. You gotta have a pleasing personality. I get it. But they buy the benefits you're promising to deliver to the table that adds value to what they're doing. So you can go up in the charisma all you want all day long, and that does work. But that may not take you to the levels and depths and places and spaces you're trying to take your organization. Because now you're making it all about you. You're not making a culture. You're not making it about a sales team. Like, well, it's me. That's fine. That's fine. So to answer your question, how do you walk away from the deal? You have to step back and look at your own methodology. See, when you have a methodology, your team sticks with you. When you have a methodology and things look kind of shaky, they understand where you're going. When you have a methodology, which is a process in place or a system, it makes it easier. So what I always share is, look, no deal, no problem. Right. I get the revenue pressure is there sometime. When it's a large deal, or maybe the largest deal you had, or you finally got that whale and the whale's there and you're going back and forth emotionally, that one client, for some of my clients, one client could shift the whole year. Yeah. One client could change the trajectory of their business, because one client coming in means they can now go hire resources that they need to execute the contract, even if the margins are smaller. Mm-hmm. Now, Jim Rohn is no longer with us. He's always say profit over wages. I understand that. But so what I always share is no deal, no problem. The reason that most of my clients get nervous, sweat, upset stomachs, well, I've been there. We all get it when there's the deal on the table, is that they don't have enough qualified folks that we would call in the pipeline, people who have an interest, want, or desire to do business with them. I didn't say they're on your list. I didn't say you call them, they're your friends. They have an interest, want, or desire to work with you, and they're willing to do something to change their situation. When that happens, then the possibilities are larger. And so when you're working 1-2 deals, you're like, I got to make this work, because if I get this money, or if I get this deal in, then so-and-so will see I'm good. No. You only have 2 jobs as an entrepreneur every day, other than negotiating the sales, obviously. But there's only 2 jobs. And I want you to hear this. I'm coming back to you, Christine, but I want you to hear this because the analogy I use is Michael Jordan. I watched an interview with Michael Jordan. I'm a Kobe Bryant fanatic, as you can see. I mean, I don't have Michael Jordan hanging in my freaking house right now, right? But I got Kobe and the greatest over there. But one of the things I watch is a conversation with Michael Jordan, and they asked him, how did he end up being the greatest? And this will relate to you in sales. It relates to you as a negotiation. You'll get this. Even if you hate basketball, you'll get this. And he said, well, and Michael Jordan won like 6 world championships. Don't worry about that. He's MVP multiple times. Don't worry about that. Considered probably the greatest of his generation. Don't worry about that. But the person said, how did you get there? And he said, well, I played in 81 regular games, season games, 25 playoff games. And my job every night was just to do 2 things. My job was to play basketball games at the highest level possible so my team could win. Or when I wasn't playing basketball games at the highest level possible, my job was to be practicing so I can play my games at the highest level possible. Shay, how does that relate to me, the entrepreneur? How does it relate to me trying to negotiate, Shay? Bring that thing into me, land that plane down. Here's what I would tell you as you're listening. Your job as an entrepreneur before you negotiate is only do 2 things every day. You only got 2 things to do. Number 1, talk to people who have a problem that you can solve and negotiate the deal. So negotiations in everything you do. I mean, Christine, you've got me convinced it's in everything you do, but that's your number 1 job. Talk to people every day. I don't care if it's through videos. I don't care if it's through your website. I don't care if it's through a masterclass. I don't care if it's on the phone. I don't care if you're face to face with a mask on these days. Hopefully you're wearing a mask and being safe, depending on when you see this recording. That's it. And then your second job every day is to find someone with a problem. That's all your activities. So when they're chasing something, that's your point. How do I tell them to walk away? Understand, no deal, no problem. That's what I would, that's my core philosophy. Shay, I'm gonna get it. No deal, no problem. There's always someone else out there. The list of people who need your services that don't even know you exist on the planet is much longer than those people you got in your database right now. We're gonna go find someone else out there that has a problem, and we'll tell them that we'll solve it, and we'll start the process over. And that's a methodology. I keep coming back to a methodology, but in whatever you do, when you have a methodology, it allows you to anchor down and work inside of your philosophies that take you to the next level.
I love that, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is that you have to have options. And so even though I love doing what I affectionately call David and Goliath negotiations, because I've negotiated with many multinational, big, huge companies, and I know how they buy and I know how they sell. And so they're kind of fun, they're complex, they're intriguing. But for the majority of smaller business owners that I know, I actually wouldn't recommend that they do business with a Goliath organization. And to your comment with Jim Rohn, right? Those companies cost you profit. So because they are expensive to service, they're needy, they whine like crazy about everything. They drive strategy, they increase your operating expenses. I mean, they cannot, for many people, it is not the right decision to be doing business with a Fortune 100 company when you have 5 employees. Now, It depends, But for a lot of times, that's not the case because the contracts are really obnoxious. And so that
And the
having
purchasing manager is
options.
normally really smart. The purchasing managers, their whole job is to get the
Yeah,
best deal for David. I mean, for
right.
Goliath.
Yeah. Now, and it's interesting. One of the people we interviewed on the show a little while ago is a gentleman named Scott ONeill, and you will appreciate this. He is the CEO of Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, which owns the New Jersey Devils, but more importantly to you, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Wow.
And we went to business school together. He's a fantastic guy, great interview, and I really appreciated him being on the show. He actually they actually just started a new program called Buy Black. And what they did is they looked across their supplier base and found that the same suppliers were winning their business all the time. And so they brought in people from the Black community and said, how do we fix this? What do we need to do differently? And what they needed to do differently was have different metrics, different delivery times, different pricing requirements, all sorts of different things to allow a smaller minority-owned business to be successful when competing with a larger organization. So, to our listeners, find those organizations. If you're a small business owner, find those bigger organizations who actually have a passion and a purpose in reflecting the communities in which they serve, because those businesses give you an opportunity to negotiate in a different way without having to sacrifice your profit the way that some of these other companies do. So always
Yeah.
be careful with that.
Yeah, and I see that because that's very important. Folks end up negotiating on price, and it's
Mm,
not about the price, but their sacrifice because they think, and it's no longer true. Okay, I was tearing with someone else again, another Shea Brown remix version. You might want to write this down. It's no longer true that you have to show all these great people you work with to try to get a deal anymore. Back in the day, in the 80s, my son hates it when I say that, or 90s, or early, when you were out there and you were competing, you
mhm.
always had to say, well, I worked with a Coca-Cola before, and I was a subcontractor. I wasn't the prime on this deal over here, but I worked with this company here. And you would, that's called past performance, right? And so you would try to bring that in. But now in the space of the internet and the space, revenue is moving with speed now. Okay,
Mm,
money moves with speed. So in many cases, you can have a team of folks that's part of your team that brings in that experience, although the company itself just got going. Now I get it. You gotta have, you gotta be able to show you can do the work, gotta have capacity. I'm not
sure.
crazy over here. But in many cases, you don't always have to, you said you have to sacrifice. We'll do it. We'll be a lost leader over here with, I don't know, say the 76, I'm making up. They're doing some good work. Minority Supplier Development Council, which is a large organization, does great work. I know all these folks are doing great work, but you don't have to say, I'm gonna go ahead and be a lost leader, give up all this money and time and resources, which slows you down from really being in your niche market that can
Mhm.
not only be more profitable, but it can have more impact.
Right.
So that's when negotiation comes in. This is why people like Christine is so important with VIN negotiations, because sometimes you need someone like her to come in and maybe evaluate not only the deal, but go back to your core philosophy and what it is the company's looking to grow. Because sometimes when people are going after those deals, it's because something came up. They got someone that's chasing contracts online. And I understand hiring the business development
Mhm.
people to write contracts and all that. I get that. And that's a good model. But something came up. And it's like, it could be a big win. And like, oh man, if we say we work with the government and we got a 3-year deal, who cares if we lose money on it? No, you will care at some point.
Yeah, yeah. At some
You
point
will
you
care.
will. Yeah, and I mean, I often talk about how for most people, they'll go into a negotiation, and you're right, they'll think about price, and it's like they get so fixated on price. But I often say that price typically should be an output of a
Yeah.
negotiation, not an input. All the things that you have to do to meet a certain price component are the things that's how you drive price. So I've worked in sales departments, and a lot of my sales guys would come and they'd like, okay, we've already agreed to price. And I'm like, but you haven't shown me a contract yet. And they're like, oh,
Right.
well, they're sending it over. And they'll send, the big company will send over the contract. And it's like, oh my Lord, the operational things that we have to do. Oh my gosh, we have insurance that's going to cost us $90,000 a year on a $100,000 deal. I don't think so, right? So
Right.
that price component can't be agreed to until you actually understand all the aspects they're going to go into influencing it, so that you make sure you're recovering price when you can. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's the two parts you said why negotiation is so important. And we do have a failure of doing that, especially in sales. Sometimes we're
mhm,
trying to get them to agree that we're the right company, and depending on who you negotiate with, these purchasing managers and other folks, they're good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, they're good. It's not like this is the first year student out of graduate school that just got the job and now they're responsible for so much money. My son works at Washington Hospital Center, right? And my son's 31 years old. He's been out of school for 6 or 7 years. And yeah, he has responsibility in hiring contractors, but those aren't the big deals. But even he will admit that sometimes, he's pushing, trying to get the best price because he looks better with the company. And these are folks who've been with them. He's
mhm,
31. Now, many times, and that's not about age, but many of you
mhm.
are dealing with folks. They've been purchasing manager for a career. This is a side thing of what he does as part of
Yep.
being in process and now being anyway, he's just been promoted again. It's not about him. But the point I want to make is, and you said it earlier, you got to bring the value to the table. The purchasing
Mhm,
manager's job is kind of like the gatekeeper's job. Their job in many cases, depending on the methodology, or I say the philosophy of that
mhm.
organization, is to get the best price possible so that they keep more money in their coffers, right? They've got a budget and the budget was 100 grand and they can spend something
Mhm.
for 50 grand to get what they need, $50,000 back in the back end that may still be a bonus kick out. I mean, it's not about that. So yeah, what you're saying is so important. My point I want to make, if you're listening right now, say, what is Shay trying to tell me? They're good. Purchasing managers, the frontline workers, they're really good. Don't sacrifice your business for a deal that potentially could be unprofitable.
Yep.
And that's why negotiation is so important, and having someone like Christine and Venn negotiation as part of your team, because sometimes we don't see that until we get the contract. And even we get the contract, like, I'm not good at reading contracts, it's not my job. But they look at it like, oh, wait a minute, you don't want this. Because if something goes wrong, you're really going to be more in the hole.
Yeah, it is
And I had that happen where I had to pay money we were doing something for a network marketing company, and we have a sales team, and that's our gig. Our gig is we provide sales teams, or we build sales teams. And this is about a couple of years ago, and we entered into a deal to make calls to try to identify people who wanted to travel. It doesn't really matter what it was, but the bottom line is we weren't able to hit some of the measurements. And as a result, I didn't understand that they got another 30 days at no cost, because when you don't hit the measurements, then we agree to try again versus giving the money back. So it's kind of like,
Mm.
okay, so yeah, you're right. We got to get it right, but I still got the costs for the next 30 days because we didn't get it right the first time because we didn't understand all the factors that was in there. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
why I
Yeah.
didn't have to give a refund? It was like, okay, well, we'll just try it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's actually a really good point. I was talking to somebody the other day. They do video marketing and are really
Yeah.
good at doing Facebook advertising and stuff. And he was actually having an issue with one of his clients where something had gone wrong. They weren't able to deliver the way that they normally would. And he's like, well, we really don't want to do a refund. And I said, there are so many other things that you could do that are not refund driven. So get creative in terms of how else can you service that customer without getting, doing a refund, and still negotiate and come out more effectively and come out of that situation more in a better place, so to speak.
Absolutely. And it goes to what you have said, to the heart of negotiating and taking deals on and so forth. So, we've done some things that just haven't worked, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I'm here today is that, I didn't just watch some YouTube video, and as my son is able to do, they watch YouTube videos and go cook something these days. I didn't just watch some YouTube video and say, this is what they told me, or I didn't just read the latest business book that was on New York Best Time, say, well, this is what they're saying. All those principles are applied. But I'm also kind of sharing with you that I'm just like many of you that are listening right now, and many of you who are watching right now. Thank you for watching, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us your time. We appreciate that. But myself and Christine, what reason I agreed to be here with is that we're still in the trenches. I still got my sleeves rolled up, right? I'm still on the phone with entrepreneurs or business owners like you every single day. I'm out there talking to their teams.
Yeah.
I'm there working through contracts. So it gives me just a different perspective. Doesn't make me better than anyone else. Doesn't make me better or smarter, but I can tell you what's going on in real time. And so I will tell you that what Christine is telling you is spot on, that focus on value, selling equals service, understand what they want. And in many cases, understand you may have to give more depending on the circumstances you're in than you're getting the first time around, but it doesn't mean it has to be unprofitable. Working with a client and they were a nonprofit organization and they're trying the same thing, negotiate deals. And I was like, hey, selling and trying to bring people in. I said, well, nonprofit don't mean no profit, right? Most of the nonprofits make some pretty darn good money. And,
they do.
And so, when you're selling and trying to get deals or trying to get people to service and give you things, that is a form of negotiation. I never thought about it until I'm like, well, I'm on Christine's show. It's like negotiating. And it's like, oh, what is that? So I'm not a negotiator, but it's still selling at the end of the day. So they go hand on hand. Matter of fact, I got to mind you, that might be someone I did refer you to because, they're negotiating, trying to get things from folks. And they said, we don't want to get no, nonprofit don't mean no profit. You can get the money and the service. You can do both. It's not an either or, it's an and both conversation.
Well, that's actually a really good point, because one of the other things that in all my years, because I've been doing negotiation now for almost 30 years, and people talk a lot right now about abundance versus scarcity. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've observed over all these years of negotiating is how many people negotiate from a position of scarcity, which is why we get this win-lose mentality. And it's not like I said earlier, it's not that it's win-win, but that a deal is fair and equitable. I suppose one could say that's win-win, but that the deal is fair and equitable. And that comes when we start thinking about negotiating in abundance. Now, it's not always, I understand sometimes we are negotiating for something and somebody is going to lose more than the other. I get that. I too am divorced. There was a definite loss that went through when I was negotiating that. I wish that I could have done that differently to a certain extent. But generally speaking, for most business people, there's research out of the University of Copenhagen that shows that when we're negotiating for something, let's call it 100, there's actually 142 amount of value. There's 42% more value in most negotiations than we think that there is. But we get so myopically focused on something that we don't see what the possibilities are. Yeah. How do you help your clients see that bigger possibility? They know they're selling X or Y, but how do you get them to see that X plus Y equals something greater than Z?
Sure. So let me tell you about a client of mine that does promotional products, and we'll talk about how you see X versus Z at the end of the day, because I think that's a very important part. And one of the pieces they found themselves at was negotiating or trying to get people to agree to a price point, right? Because promotional products, the more you get, the less it's supposed to be. And there's so many factors involved in there. And one of the things I share with them, and I'll share it with you, and this is, I think, most of what we're talking about here for most of you, we're probably talking about 70%, we're talking about folks getting new business, right? Because there's two types of negotiations. And in this client's case, so I want to be very clear and frame the conversation. In this first case, they're going after new business, right? Yep. So I get it. You negotiate differently if it's a repeat business, my second, my third, or fourth time we're signing a contract. So for some of you, I'm like, you're just trying to win your first 2 or 3 big deals, okay? So you're bringing in new people that aren't already in the shop. That's right. That's my focus for the most part on this conversation, right? So this person was like you, finally got a hook on the fish, and this was like a year ago, okay? So it really, well, I guess it is a long time compared to where we are these days, but and they're on the fence and they're frustrated. They're like, how do I bring this client in? And so I reminded them of a little bit about why people buy, right? And I always say that people, jot this in your notes, another golden nugget for you, that people buy benefits. Put that in your notes. People buy benefits. It's been often said in sales and negotiation that people buy you. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I got to give you the Shea Brown remix version. Got to give you the remix version. Is people buy the benefits you say you're going to deliver. And so what I shared with him, and as we was going through this, and this is very important, is that forget all the 5 different benefits. There's a 5th benefit we talk about, which is called the benefit of the benefit. And let me give you the backstory, and then I'll tell you what I share with this client. And this will probably create a breakthrough for you. So go ahead and jot this down. The benefit of the benefit. I love what Christine has this format, because I can kind of share a story and then I can give you a golden nugget. Don't you love that? Hang in there. I'm so glad you're here. The best is still yet to come. So hang in there. And so, so here's what the benefit of the benefit is. I'll give it my way. For when I first started, Christine, I used to sell sales training, right? And the benefit of hiring our company is that you got sales training, although no one wanted any freaking sales training. So, okay, so I moved to the next benefit. So the benefit of working with us, you get sales training. What's the next benefit? I said, well, the benefit of working with us is you make more money. Yes. Who doesn't want more money? And I would scream to the top of my lungs, money, money, money. That's a song, by the way. And then I figured out nobody wanted any money. And this is the answer to Christine's question. Shay, the benefit of working with your company is I improve my selling skills. That's a benefit. The benefit of improving your selling skills is you make more money. Those are tangible benefits. The cash is in the bank account. The contracts are in the vault, okay? But what's the benefit of making more money? I mean, what's the benefit of that? Here's what I learned. It was the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. It was what the money would do for them. Give them peace of mind, send their kids to a school of their choice. It would do so many other things. So I had to get focused on the benefit of the benefit. And this is what you're talking about. There's that 3rd level of benefit. And I believe that when you're negotiating, and this is what I told this person, when you go to them, don't focus on the price. Don't focus on all the fancy stuff they're going to get. Focus on the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. They're going to have peace of mind. Knowing them. Number 2, they made a wise decision. They're going to look good in front of their boss and their manager and everyone else. 3rd, they're doing some good in the community. They're bringing in someone fresh, someone new ideas. And that inherently are benefits over and beyond everything else. So we started stacking. That's what it's called in sales. We started stacking the benefit of the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. And it's to her point. She said, yeah, there's 100 over here, but there's other 42. Well, those are normally those intangibles or tangibles that people didn't think about. As a result, the person got the deal. Yay. Did they make a gazillion dollars in profit? No. Razor thin margins. Okay. It can't be perfect. Okay. We didn't have Christina around. It can't be freaking perfect. You think I got a perfect story to share with you? But here's what you can walk away with. Whether you're selling promotional products, whether you're selling consulting services, whether you're selling technology products, whether you're out there selling coaching or personal professional development, it doesn't matter. The principle is still there. You must sell the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. Why, Shay? Because people buy benefits. They buy the benefits you say you can deliver that's only going to help them. And you got to help them see that. When you do that, your conversations will be shorter. When you do that, you won't be talking about price. When you do that, you'll be negotiating, which is what Christina's talking about over here. You'll be negotiating all the other things they want in the contract from a service perspective, service delivery, yada, yada, lottie, lottie, dottie. We want somebody to do something. You know how that works, right? But isn't that a good feeling though? You're there and you're at least working towards a deal, which is when negotiations even more important.
Well, and I think that what's I love about that is that it recognizes that at the end of the day, negotiation is inherently personal.
Yeah.
Because it is about what the individual needs, what the individual wants. And so we make those decisions based on our, what's motivating us. And when we try to say, and a lot of people in negotiation will go, it's not personal. I'm like, the hell it isn't. It is absolutely personal. It's very personal. And when you are selling and when you're negotiating and really that all just comes down to influencing. You're just influencing people to take action in a different way, right? And so when you're influencing people to take action in a different way, that's personal. It's absolutely personal.
No. It's about awesome. As personal as it's possibly going to get. And you're spot on, which is why at the end of the day, it's very, very important. And you said this in the very beginning, that, you know what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, and why you're going to say it. I said it earlier and I come back to it. Your words will make rich. So one of the things that we share with some of our sales teams, and this may be applicable to you, because I want to make sure you walk away some golden nuggets, some things you can do today. Like, you don't need to read a book. You don't need to, if you listen, you never found me again in your life, this could help you. It's a lifetime benefit of you being here right now. So I always say, look, when you're in there and you're at this level, some of you are at this level, you're negotiating big deals or you're starting a conversation, in your language pattern, you might go ahead and mention, hey, look, we're not the cheapest deal out there, and we're not the most expensive, but we're freaking competitive, packed with loads of value over and beyond our competition. And so you want to do what's called a pre-frame. And a pre-frame is when you let the person kind of know up front. Now, again, it goes back to your methodology. It goes back to being able to walk away from deals. And they say, we're just looking for the cheapest price possible. Well, this might not be the right conversation for me.
Exactly.
Because we're not the low cost provider. You can go Google and find out who's the low cost provider, and maybe they can provide you the low cost. But here's where they can't beat us at. See, you always gotta, you want to turn the conversation around, and you want to future pace. And future pace is when you tell the person what's going to happen before they get there, and say, well, let me tell you where they can't beat us at. And then that's where you go to your strengths and this and do-overs and reworks or whatever it may be. And they might say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to save you time. Yeah, we're going to save you peace of mind. Yeah, you won't have to put 4 people assigned to it. Yeah, you have to worry about quality control. Whatever all the things that Christine talked about as a negotiating deal, that's pulled off the table, but at least they know up front. And I said, we're not the cheapest. That's not our model. And we're not the most expensive. But we're god darn competitive with more value than anyone else out there, we believe. And here's why. And then they have the conversation. Now they're not trying to say, well, how can I get the best price? That's not even a conversation. I'm probably the wrong person to talk to.
Yeah. Well, most people don't buy on price. Prices, it's rare. It's actually very rare, even unless you're doing, like a closed bid situation with the US government or something. The majority of people, price is certainly a contributing factor to what somebody will do, but it isn't the number. It's most often not the number one reason that somebody buys on.
Which science will show that most folks will buy something more expensive than the cheapest price out there. I mean, you can go look at all the data. And what kind of car you drive? It wasn't the cheapest car you could go find.
Yeah.
What's the house you're in? It's not the cheapest house you could find.
Yep.
So every day, people make decisions based on what's most important to them, based on their values, based on their mission, their goals, and their objectives, which I love, Christine, how you start off by saying with one organization, this is their mission. This is the mission they're on. And so if you can fit into that mission, then you have an opportunity that may not have been there before.
Absolutely.
So shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers and all those folks out there. Shout out to Philadelphia. They're doing some cool things out in Philadelphia. So
yes, they are. Yes,
I love what Philadelphia is doing. So
yeah. So Shay, this has been amazing. First, I know you have something to give our audience, so I'm really excited about that. And how can people find you?
Sure. So there's 2 ways. Number one way for people to find me is I would say, just send me a text. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, because everyone's not going to do it, right? But I'm going to give you a number, very specific instructions. You're going to just text the word VEN, V-E-N. Don't you love that? You're going to just text the word VEN, V-E-N-N. And then when you text the word VEN to this number, which is 202-270-1662. Now that's my number. Okay. So I'm going to send this over to Lauren. Okay. But text the word VEN to 202-270-1662. When you text the word VEN, here's what you're going to get. One, I'm going to send you my account. I'm on Instagram. You follow me. I follow you back. It's the best place to follow me. I love, like right now, you can hear me and Christine talking and you hear our view of the world. But I like to know who you are, what you're doing out there. So the only way for me to do that is to find you on social media. I can't find you unless you find me first, because I can't see you. You can see me. Lean in. Yeah, there you go. You can see me. But I can't see you. So just go ahead and text the word VEN, V-E-N-N, to 202-270-1662. Now, we're not going to stop connecting on Instagram, but you can find me on Instagram. I am Shay Brown, so C-H-E Brown, I am. But I'm going to make sure also we have something called the 4-Minute Sales Makeover. I'm doing a 3-part series. It's just totally amazing for those folks that want to say, okay, what do I need to do just to make over my sales? Okay, if you like doing all the sales. And for others out there, one of my favorite ways to connect that I'm loving right now is we're doing something called Build Your Sales Team Challenge. Build Your Sales Team Challenge. It's 5 words. My marketing team got to do a better job at that, but still, buildyoursalesteamchallenge.com. Now, it's no cost. When you go over to buildyoursalesteamchallenge.com and you get there, just follow instructions, opt in. I'm going to do another 5-part series on how to build your sales team, teaching some of the principles that I talked about here. So if you're someone like Shay, I'm tired of doing all the sales, or Shay, when I stop, the sales stop, or Shay, what I get, I'm tired of running appointments for folks who aren't qualified. Shay, then now is your time to build your sales team. Again, I have the toughest job, hardest prospects in the world, entrepreneurs who need to understand they need revenue to purchase resources to execute the vision they have for the people they were called to serve. And the only way to get the revenue is to go serve someone. And the only way to do that is either you do it or you have a sales team. So of all the teams you have, I promise you, your sales team will be one of the best investments you've ever made. So go to buildyoursalesteamchallenge.com. It's free. It's no cost. I'm giving the best I have. Join me for 5 days and it'll change your life. If not, go back and watch the videos. Some of you will do that. So that's the short answer. That's my gift. Buildyoursalesteamchallenge.com or text me.
Fantastic. And we will have all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And to all the listeners, thank you so much for joining us and tuning in this time. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of In the Venn Zone, where we are changing the nature of negotiation. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of In the Venn Zone with Christine McKay. We invite you to visit our website at www.venn.zone to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Empower the negotiator in you and successfully level the playing field. Join us again next time here on In the Venn Zone.